Welcome to week 5. So this week we're going to do one last round with the 10 core concepts. In this case, the chapter we're looking at is going to be dealing with how an actual student applies the 10 core concepts in her own work. Okay? One thing I should note here, the Blackboard Collaborate session for last week is currently available on YouTube if you need to get guidance on how to approach the analysis essay. That's for your scholarship essays, so that you can get started with those and have something reasonable to be present next week when we go into revisions. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through student writer applying the 10 core concepts. Alright, so for the purposes of this entire chapter, which is chapter 4 in the textbook, if you need to follow along, Yagelski is going to be following one particular student that he had at SUNY Albany. Her name is Chloe Charles. And he'll be talking about how her process for writing an essay aligns with the 10 core concepts. Now, although in this chapter the concepts are labeled differently and worded differently, they are the same as the ones that we covered in week 2. Now, as we go through Chloe's process, what I want you to do is try to apply some of what she does to your own analysis and scholarship essays. Some of this we did last week with our journaling exercises that we did during the lecture. Okay, other parts should be happening in the drafting and revision stages of the process. Okay, so some of it's not going to be happening until later, but some of this should have already happened. Okay, in terms of what your own essay is going with. Okay. So let's talk about Chloe. Chloe's essay that Yagelski is profiling here was inspired by her stepfather's experiences having trouble getting another job after the recession of 2007. Ultimately went back to school to earn a teaching certificate. Now, for those of you who may not remember this, some of you may have been kind of young to understand what was going on. Just as a quick overview, the recession of 2007 occurred when the housing bubble burst. That is to say, there were a lot of securities that defaulted that were based on subprime mortgages. And a lot of those loans were defaulted, which made all of those securities worthless. A lot of people had huge amounts of money invested in those securities, so when they lost all their money, they lost all their money, and then it started a domino effect that started affecting all areas of the economy. Some of it is we didn't really recover from until about 2010 or 2011. Okay. So it was a big hiccup, okay? It was big enough that my family got caught up in the wave. My wife lost her job because GM went into bankruptcy. And they cut a bunch of people, and she was one of the ones that wound up getting cut. That's part of the reason why we wound up in Texas in the first place, okay? So Chloe has a similar story with her stepfather. He lost his job during that recession. And then he goes back to school to earn a teaching certificate. What they'll tell you about with her stepfather is that he is a journalist, okay, and he was let go by a newspaper. All right. So this really influenced Chloe's topic selection. So when she received an assignment to examine a question related to the purpose of college, this was how she decided to approach that. Okay. So Chloe's question is college for everyone? That was the question that she came up with for her essay. Now, after she came up with the topic and her question, she started exploring the question further. And she's using readings that she is doing for other classes. In particular, there was one that she found for another class. Let's see. She was, I'm trying to look here. There were several assignments that asked students to inquire on the purpose of education. One of the articles that Chloe found It was an essay titled Knowledge Its Own End by John Henry Newman. It was written in 1852. Now, page 88 in the textbook, the second page of the chapter, there is an excerpt from Chloe's interpretation of Newman. Okay, some of what Newman had to say. It's being filtered through Chloe. Okay, I'll just read this real quick. Newman states that knowledge is not good or bad, but depends on how we treat it. Even in ancient Greece and Rome, he says, most people had the will to look outside their own perceptions to find out what was happening around them. Newman acknowledges that some people are better suited for manual labor or serving in the military, but they still need some knowledge to do their jobs well. He knows that people everywhere in the world, not just a few, want to know and understand what is going on in the world. Okay, so these elements helped her to select a working topic for her essay for Jagiellski. So what she did was she chose to look at the history of higher education in the United States. Now, her continued reading about education, including the Newman work, and then there was another work that's mentioned in the text by Charles Murray, arguing that not everyone is suited for college. Okay, she also combined that with her stepfather's, comparing her stepfather's circumstances again with those of her grandfather. Okay, her grandfather had not attended college but became a successful businessman nonetheless. Okay, while her stepfather lost a journalism job and had an exceedingly hard time finding new employment even with a college career, or even with a college degree, I should say. Chloe felt confident enough in her knowledge of the topic to adjust her question to better focus her essay on the ultimate idea. And she centered this idea on two basic questions. One, why is it expected in American society that everyone should pursue a college education? And two, where does this expectation come from? Okay. As part of her discovery process, she wound up crafting a discovery draft. Okay. Using news feeds to inform her viewpoint on the topic, she actually constructed a full discovery draft to try to hone her ideas about the topic and what she was going to talk about. Now, there are excerpts from that discovery draft in the chapter on pages 90 and 91. And it doesn't give you the entire draft, but it gives you the stuff that was important to her discovery. Okay, some of the elements that we've been talking about here: applying her own family's experience, applying the theorists. Okay, so. There's quite a bit there. When the next stage in the process was for Chloe to examine the rhetorical context. Her primary audience was going to be her classmates, but she deduced that the topic would be of general interest to many college-age young people who might be debating whether college is worth the expense. So she goes on to write a proposal for the essay, which is trying to anticipate the audience's expectations. Okay. Now, she also, at this point, acknowledges that her audience would extend to scholars and experts in the educational field. Okay. So here is her brief proposal. Okay. Or actually, this is just an excerpt from the proposal. Okay. It's actually on page 92. Students will be interested in my topic because I'm sure they want to know why there is a societal expectation that everyone should attend college. I can assume that students might want to know their own role in the history of higher education. How have we as college students affected the institutions we attend, and how have we ourselves benefited from attending those institutions? Okay? So, at this point, she's still trying to think over the approach she's going to take. She's looking at her expected audience. She's going to be also looking at the context of the paper, the context that she's writing it in. So this includes the time period, the place that she's living, and then the purpose. Okay, so at the time period, we're talking 2015, 8 years removed from the recession, when people were still feeling the effects, and also as the 2016 presidential race is bringing education as a campaign issue. Okay, this is when you started having, when Bernie Sanders ran his first presidential campaign, one of his primary tenets was free college for all. So That's the background in which she's writing this essay. The place where she's writing it is New York City, or New York State rather, where tuition rates were rising steadily for years despite the slowed economy. That's one thing that you have to remember about tuition rates, is that they usually do not account for economic slowdowns. Okay, if they go up, they're still going to go up regardless. Okay, and then purpose: to gain a better understanding of American ideas about higher education in order to have a better informed outlook. Okay, so that was the primary reason for her essay, to get a better understanding. Okay. So she's now got her rhetorical context. Okay. Chloe found that she needed to revise her working question after all of this work preparing the essay. So at this point, she reviewed the question and she decided it needed to be slightly altered. So now the question is college worthwhile for everyone? Is college worthwhile for everyone? Okay. After all the work she did to analyze the rhetorical situation, Chloe went back to her discovery draft and refined it, identifying areas that required further thought or research, including further readings that informed the Newman and Murray essays. Okay, so she understands that she does not have a complete picture in terms of the research, and now she's determining where she has to go back and find more answers. All right, the next is selecting an appropriate medium. Okay. Chloe's assignment was a traditional college writing project, which meant a conventional academic essay to be submitted as a Word or PDF file to the instructor. Okay. Now, this is the meat and potatoes of the medium. However, the medium also shapes the project slightly. Part of the conventions of this medium includes expectations for research sources. So there was a requirement on this essay for number of sources and what kinds of sources. Chloe chose a number of popular sources, supplemented by several academic essays and scholarly journal articles, as well as a report from the U.S. Department of Education. So she has a considerable amount of research that's going into this essay. Next step, have something to say. Okay. Now, to ensure that she had a strong argument for her paper, Chloe crafted a guided thesis statement for the essay. Now, you're looking now at her revisited discovery question, her main question. Based on the readings of the discovery draft, she started crafting this into a thesis statement, as we talked about last week. And this thesis statement wound up being approximately a paragraph. Okay, actually slightly less than a paragraph. It's on page 94. This is how it reads. Various social and economic developments, along with government policies in the past century, have resulted in a dramatic increase in the number of Americans who attend college, and today many students feel pressure to go to college. However, many students might be attending college because of this societal pressure, rather than pursue other career paths that would be right for them. Okay? So that's her main idea for her thesis statement. Okay? Now, she took this thesis statement and compared it to the discovery draft. Okay, you're always going back and forth with these drafts. You're going to your thesis statement, then back to discovery draft, thesis, back discovery, so on and so forth, to try to refine things and make it better. So at this point, she compared the thesis statement to the discovery draft and decided that the thesis did not encompass the larger question of her essay, being the value of college. So she revised the thesis statement. Okay. Page 95, this is what the revised thesis statement comes out as. It's a much longer paragraph. So here's what she came up with. Various social and economic developments along with government policies in the past century have resulted in a dramatic increase in the number of Americans who attend college. Today, many students feel pressure to go to college rather than pursue other career paths that would be right for them, believing that college will lead to a better paying job. However, in a view of a challenging job market, some students are questioning whether college is worth the increasing tuition and high rates of student debt. But the question of whether college is worthwhile is more than a matter of money. College has value that goes beyond the salary a college graduate might earn. Okay, so this gives you an idea of the approach she's going to take. This captures the main point that Chloe wants to make in the essay. Now, she's going to continue research as she finds out more about the topic and develops the argument, that there's going to need to be some refining to this thesis statement. So, next step, back up what you say. Using her guiding thesis statement as a filter, Chloe identified the claims she was going to make in the essay, picking them out from her discovery draft. So she went through the discovery draft, found where she had naturally come out with particular claims that were going to try to support her thesis, and then went and specifically found those claims and put them into a list. So here's the list that she came up with. Okay. College has become an expectation for many students today. Federal education policies, as well as social and political developments over the past century, have led to an increase in the number of Americans who attend college. The pressure to attend college might prevent some students from pursuing other career opportunities that are right for them. Recent economic developments have made attending college much more challenging for many students. College generally leads to better jobs. College has value that goes beyond getting a better job. Okay? So these are the points that Chloe decides to put into an outline. Okay? She's reorganized these claims into an outline with 2 main claims, and the rest is supporting claims. Okay? So, you might recall we talked the last couple of weeks about deductive reasoning. Okay? Main claim, secondary claims. Okay? Here's how she came up with her main claims. She found that 2 of them were bigger than the rest of them. And then the other ones were used as support for those main claims. So the main claims that she chose are: college has become an expectation for many students in the U.S., and college is worthwhile in several different ways. Okay? So then as far as her sub claims, they're kind of here already. Okay, if you look at college has become an expectation for many students today, she is using that as a main claim. The next 3 on this list you see here, those are the subclaims for that main claim. Okay, and then she came up with the second claim, the second main claim, that college is worthwhile in several different ways, as a way to combine those last 2 points, where college generally leads to better jobs and college has value that goes beyond getting a better job. Okay? So, Discovery Draft already contains some of Chloe's key claims, which she was able to add to with the research she had done. Now she's adding more stuff to the Discovery Draft as she goes along. Every subsequent draft has more to it, based on what she finds out from her research. So combining her further research with the contents of the Discovery Draft, Chloe was able to write her initial rough draft, which is reproduced in the textbook. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it runs from pages 97 to 100. Okay? And it's a draft essay titled The Ever-Changing Norms About College in the United States. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'll let you guys take a few minutes here to read this essay. Again, it is in Chapter 4. If you're using the ebook, this is going to be in Step 5 in Chapter 4. Okay, if you guys have the print textbook, this is prior to when the chapters start shifting numbers, so it should still be in the same page number for you guys. For me, it's page 97. Okay, take a moment to read this draft over, and then on the questions to the professor thread I'm going to set up for this, I want you guys to evaluate how well she articulated the points that she wants to make. Okay, how well were you able to pick out those main claims, and how well did she use the supporting claims to back those main claims up? Okay, I'll give you, let's say, probably about 10 minutes to do this, and then come back to the lecture when you're ready, and we will continue looking over Chloe's path. So now that you've responded to her discovery draft, it's time to move on to the second half of the 10 core concepts. So, step 6, establish a form and structure for your project. Now, Chloe was not limited to an organizational structure for the assignment, so she reviewed the rhetorical situation for the essay in determining the form. Okay, looking overall at what was going to be expected of her for the assignment, and what she wanted to say and who she wanted to talk to. Okay, so starting with genre. The assignment specifically called for an in-depth, informed argument that reflects your understanding of the issue. Okay, so obviously that doesn't really give Chloe much to go on in terms of her genre. Okay, but she decided that what she was going to write was going to be an informed argument essay, which was organized around her two main claims. Okay, so she is using a deductive reasoning style. Okay, where she's coming up with a conclusion, and she's informing the argument around those two main conclusions. Okay. Then she has a medium. Okay. Chloe has to follow the conventions of writing an academic paper. So it's got to be a conventional academic essay, and it has to be in MLA format. So she's going to have to consult with the MLA guides, either Purdue OWL, or if she has a print guide, she's going to have to use that to determine what the formatting should be. And then you have the rhetorical situation. This is going to be primarily concerned with informing the audience and persuading the audience that college is worthwhile, but not necessarily best for everyone. So Chloe is going to focus her organization first on historical analysis, followed by her main argument about whether college is right for everyone. Some thought regarding transition was needed, though, as well as clarification of her argument. So her basic organization surrounding her two main claims was sound, so what she decided to work on was organizing the supporting information around those main claims. While she did not use one for her initial drafting, Chloe chose at this point to construct an outline for her essay. When you don't have a outline for an initial draft, it actually tends to work better because a outline becomes a distraction, and you're trying really hard to try to shoehorn the ideas that you're finding and the ideas that you're discovering into that outline. Just wait until this point to come up with an outline. Okay? So comparing the outline to the initial draft shows how imbalanced the draft was, focusing more on the historical norms and not enough on her main argument. Okay? Now remember, her main argument is whether college is right for everyone. Okay? If she's taking too much time to explore the antecedents and explore the historical background and explain everything, she's never going to get to her point. So using the outline, now Chloe has a plan for revision. But she wants to wait for peer feedback before fully revising the essay. Now we're getting into the social stuff, okay? So now she's getting feedback. During the in-class workshop session, Chloe received feedback in both written and verbal forms for her classmates. The instructor gave specific questions and guidance for the session, but Chloe was more concerned about the strength of her argument with her peers and audience. She later consulted with the instructor about revisions. Okay, so here's what you really want to do with a workshop session. You want to have a focus in terms of what kind of feedback you want. Okay, in general, each of the sessions is going to have a particular focus. The first session will be for revisions. The second session will be for proofreading. Okay, but in the revision section, that's when you can have a lot of feedback from the writer themselves in terms of what they need you to give you feedback on. Okay, she has some specific questions, and she needs some guidance from her peers to know which direction she should probably go with her essay and how they're perceiving it. Chloe's classmates eventually do give her feedback, which identifies her strengths and weaknesses. Okay, so in this case, the strengths that she was given, the topic was interesting and relevant. An anecdote about her great-grandfather was strong, and the question resonated with the audience. So she was right in that regard, that the audience is going to engage with it because it's something that directly affects them. However, here we go with the weaknesses. Analysis was sometimes hard to follow. Inadequate representation of alternative viewpoints on the value of college. And at some points, her instructor points out the lack of complexity. Okay, certain things are oversimplified. Certain concepts that she's presenting need to have a little bit more meat to them, a little bit more detail. Okay, because they're being oversimplified in the context of the essay. Now, Chloe's instructor went through the draft and gave detailed commentary in regards to the content of the essay, addressing concerns about lack of complexity and alternative viewpoints. Okay. If you want to look at how feedback works, which is going to be helpful for you when you guys start doing your own workshopping, there is an annotated draft on pages 104 through 107. It has comments from, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 different commenters giving her feedback. The one who has the most comments here is named Joe. That is her instructor. Okay. The rest of the comments are from peer reviewers. Okay. And you can probably kind of tell that because the peer reviewers are doing very little in terms of giving her feedback. In fact, 2 of them only leave her 1 comment each. Okay. So you want to try to do a little bit more than that for your teammates as you are giving them feedback. Now, the feedback was generally complementary to each other without any contradictions to reconcile. There wasn't any instances where one reader saw something that the other reader saw completely opposite or vice versa. Okay, everybody was pretty much in agreement as to what the issues were and what she was doing right and what she was doing wrong. With this feedback in mind, Chloe goes to revisions. Okay, she used her feedback from the workshop session and from her instructor to create a plan of attack for the next draft. So from the feedback she got, she determined there was 4 main things she had to do. 1 is clarify the main argument. 2, include the alternative viewpoints. 3, clarify the historical analysis. And 4, avoid oversimplification. And that would address the complexity issue that her instructor brought up. Okay? Now, the opening paragraph, as she did revisions, was revised to establish the focus more clearly. Okay? This is covered on pages 108 and 109. Okay? They give you the draft version, and then they give you the revised version. Okay? Passages with oversimplified claims were filled out with further details. At page 109, they have that particular passage. New material was added to address alternative perspectives on the value of college and add depth. Okay, this appears on pages 110 and 111. Okay, there were other revisions that Chloe made to address some other pertinent points. So some of the other things that she did over the course of revisions, 1 was elaborate on, develop, and refine the analysis. Another is to clarify the important points. Another would be to support the claims. And another would be to strengthen the main argument. Okay? So, she did all of this in terms of the content of the paper that she was producing. Next thing that she wound up doing was focusing on form. Okay? She had to make other revisions to strengthen the form of the essay by reorganizing claims, eliminating unnecessary material, and adding to or strengthening transitions. Okay? There's an example of this on pages 111 through 113, fully annotated for you. Okay? Now, she took the time to reevaluate her rhetorical situation and revise to strengthen her position within it. Some things that she did, she added more references to her great-grandfather and tried to get some better and more up-to-date facts and statistics. Okay, she had to do a little bit updating on some of her sources. At the end of the revisions, she altered her introduction and conclusion to make them stronger and align them closer to the claims made within the body of the essay. This is shown on pages 114 to 115. Right, so here's what I want you guys to do here. Uh, there is a whole lot of revisions that are in this particular step of the process. So what I want you to do is take a look at the comparative passages in from pages 108 through 113. Okay, everything that Chloe revised that they're showing in the textbook. So every one of them is going to show you the original draft and then the revision draft. Okay, what she revised it to. Okay, I want you to take a look at all those passages and evaluate how well she revised it. Okay, this will also be going into questions to the professor. How well did she revise her draft? Did she fix the issues? Do you feel that she did enough to fix those issues, or should she have done some more? Okay, and if she needed to do more, what more would you suggest her that she do? Okay, take another 10 minutes for this. Let you guys get your answers up there, and then we'll come back. Okay, now we're back. So the next stage after all of those revisions, next thing that Chloe had to go into was strengthening her voice. Okay. While she was limited to the kind of language she could use in the essay, Chloe had other ways to give the essay a stronger sense of her own voice. Okay. This is how she basically made it sound like her. Okay. She had to use formal language, but there was ways that she could alter the language so that it sounded more like she was telling you what was going on. It was her story. The voice she used in the essay demonstrated her enthusiasm for the topic and how much it meant to her. Her constant attention to the rhetorical situation made a difference here. So she understood she was talking to a specific audience. She was talking to a student audience. And she showed her enthusiasm based on what she was producing, what she was writing, and how she wrote about it. Okay? She was very enthusiastic in terms of how she described her family's issues, how she described the topic itself, going through the history. The language was really strong. Chloe also felt that the essay was stronger if she used the first person as she wrote, since there is no prohibition on using I in the assignment. Okay? So, she chose to use the first person because it was a personal story. It was the story of her family. So she wanted to present that in terms of, I am someone who has been affected by this directly, here is how. Now, there were other revisions that helped to strengthen Chloe's voice as well. The adding material about her family's experiences. Not only did that help with the content in her revisions, but it also helped with her voice. It made it more personal. The strategic use of first person, finding places where first person was appropriate when she's explaining her own experiences or explaining her family's experiences. Clarifying confusing passages using more straightforward language. Simplifying the words she was using rather than trying to sound more academic than she actually is. Okay? And then strengthening the conclusion with her own informed perspective. Okay? She was using the perspective that she has basically to make a stronger point that was going to be left with the reader. Okay? Then at step 10, you make it correct. Okay? In the end, Chloe went through the full essay and polished up the grammar, spelling, and mechanics. And mostly minor fixes she needed to make in the previous draft to polish it into a final draft. Okay? So she went through everything, and she also probably had another workshops or at least an editor look at it and try to do as many grammar corrections, grammar fixes as possible. Okay? Final version of the essay is on page 117. And I think I actually will read that to you guys. Okay. It is in proper MLA format, but due to the limitations of the printing process, it could not be reproduced in double space. Okay, because MLA calls for double space. The last two pages, on pages 122 and 123, those are her works cited. Just really quick here. She uses 14 reference works, okay? She references 14 works cited in this essay, okay? If you're having any issues in regards to MLA format, this is a good example to look at because it's in perfect MLA format. The citations are there, the works cited is in the correct format, the listings are in the correct format, they're in alphabetical order, they are separate from the rest of the essay, okay? So, we're going to read through Chloe's final draft and listen for any elements that you can borrow or emulate in your own analysis and scholarship essay. Okay? All right, so here we go. Her essay is titled, "Why is College So Important in the United States?" And here is the text of the essay. My great-grandfather never attended college, and he led what I believe is a very successful life. He owned a sports shop in Syracuse, New York, where many high school and even some college athletes bought their equipment. He never once took a business course to learn how to run a business or even a general education course. So why do I? Today, it is common for students graduating high school to pursue a higher education. 20.2 million students were expected to attend American colleges and universities in the 2015-16 academic year. In the 1940s, only 8% of men and 5% of women between the ages of 20 and 24 attended college. By 1991, almost 31% of men and 29% of women attended college. So what changed? Why did so many people in my great-grandfather's generation live a nice life without any form of college education, yet today those without college degrees can struggle to make ends meet? Students today face very different challenges from those my great-grandfather faced. Even with a college degree, many people entering the job market cannot find the jobs in their majors. My stepfather is a good example. Even with a college degree, he struggled to find work in his field of study, and the average student now leaves college with more than $35,000 in loan debt. Not surprisingly, many students now question whether college is worth the time, effort, and cost. They wonder whether they really need a degree to be successful despite the pressure they feel to go to college. Although many people see numerous benefits to college, many others argue that a college degree is no longer the best path to being successful. The decision about whether to attend college is not a simple one, but I still believe college offers great benefits in addition to a possible career path. And everyone should at least have the opportunity to go to college if they choose to. To understand the situation facing students today, it helps to know how we got here. As my great-grandfather knew, it wasn't always the case that young people were expected to go to college. During the 20th century, a number of important developments helped make attending college a societal norm and influenced how Americans think about the importance of a college degree. One of those developments was increased government financial aid. Prior to the 1960s, it was hard for someone in the working or lower middle class to afford college tuition. Today, many families can afford to send their children to college because of numerous government programs. For example, the Higher Education Act of 1965 helped the general population receive federal aid to attend any college of their choosing. Federal aid for higher education increased from $655 billion in 1955 to $3.5 billion in 1965, which enabled colleges to budget more money for scholarships. As a result, more students from lower-income households had a better chance of attending college. One of the most important government programs was the Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1944, commonly known as the GI Bill, which helped soldiers returning from World War II pay for college. By the end of 1947, about half of the students attending colleges in the U.S. were benefiting from this bill. Later programs such as the Pell Grant Program, which was initiated in 1972, would focus on the circumstances and needs of recent high school graduates from low-income families. All these programs affected not only how many Americans attended college, but also which Americans could attend. These government programs also influenced American attitudes about higher education and encouraged the belief that young people should not have to be born to affluent or educated parents in order to be able to expect a college education. As a result, students of many different backgrounds were able to attend the college of their choice. Prior to the 1940s, usually white men from the upper or middle class populated colleges' campuses. Fewer African Americans and women attended college partly due to social norms and also because of the difficulty of obtaining financial aid. Although there were all black and all women colleges, those institutions often did not have the resources that the larger universities did. But that began to change as a result of the civil rights and women's movements of the 1960s and 1970s. Many universities were now more open to diversity due to these movements, and colleges began to welcome students of any race, culture, gender, etc. This growing national acceptance of diverse groups made attending an institution of higher education possible for virtually anyone who possessed a high school diploma and the necessary financial resources. In addition to these earlier programs, the government began supporting community colleges as far back as the 1990s. A community college can be a safe decision for students with specific needs who are looking for an affordable education. Over the years, community colleges, through the use of media, have targeted the non-traditional college student, the one who may hold a job, cannot afford the tuition at a university, or is not quite ready to attend a large private or public university. These benefits of a community college are what interested government policymakers most. If community college could improve and grow, then more students could attend college for a lower price than that of a four-year private or public university. This option was appealing to many students, especially those who had financial troubles but still wanted to get a degree, and helped increase overall college attendance. These various factors all contributed to the idea that college is a path to a better life. After the U.S. pulled out of the Great Depression and World War II ended, college attendance increased rapidly. As time went on, more and more people in American society realized the economic benefits of a degree. In 1975, a person who had a bachelor's degree earned about 1.5 times more in yearly pay than did someone with only a high school diploma. In 2013, Median annual earnings for young adults ages 25 to 34 with a bachelor's degree were $48,500 as compared to $30,000 for those with a high school diploma. There are also many social and intellectual benefits of attending college. Having a higher education can lead to better health, living arrangements, lifestyle choices, etc. Before World War I, few people would have believed that statement because people could do okay without a degree. Today, so many people grow up thinking that they must go to college to have a successful life. But does a college degree guarantee success? Are too many students going to college because of societal expectations when college might not be the right path for them? My stepfather earned a college degree in English and then landed a job as a journalist. He did everything society expected him to do, but it wasn't enough. In 2007, during the Great Recession, he lost his job like many others in the country, and after months of trying, he couldn't find work in his field. Because of that, he returned to college to try to find a new career. He is not alone. According to the Economic Policy Institute, unemployment of young graduates is extremely high today, 7.2% as compared to 5.5% in 2007. In addition, wages of young high school and college graduates have failed to reach their pre-recession levels, and have in fact stagnated or declined for almost every group since 2000. So now many college graduates are asking, was my degree even worth it in the first place? Charles Murray, author of Are Too Many People Going to College?, believes that college is not worth it for everyone. He states that not everyone is prepared for the strenuous intellectual challenge of a liberal education. One study Murray cites shows that only 10% of high school students who take the SAT score on the percentile that would lead them to get at least a 2.7 GPA in college. If students are not going to do well, then what? Many drop out and attempt to find a full-time job. Others return home to figure out a new plan. But overall, this is affecting graduation rates. Murray points out that only those who are interested in getting a liberal education should attend school. Many who do not want to go to college can do well in other fields, such as trade jobs. The other major factor students must consider when deciding whether to go to college is the cost. In the United States, many top-ranked public universities cost $20,000 to $30,000 per year in tuition, fees, room and board, and additional personal costs, while at most private colleges a student pays from $50,000 to $65,000. In an article titled College Calculus, What's the Real Value of Higher Education?, John Cassidy quotes Professor Peter Capelli, who discusses the burden many families face when attempting to send their children to school. Capelli reveals that students in college are paying almost 4 times as much as other students around the world. With the help of financial aid, some or most of these costs can be taken care of, but that is just for the select few. Everyone else must either hope to receive local or private scholarships or take out loans. If you are a person from a lower-income family, it is nearly impossible to pay for college by yourself. In 2013, the average debt college students graduated with was $27,670. And in 2015, it was more than $35,000, the highest ever. If graduates cannot find a job, the serious debt cannot be paid off, which leaves them in more debt due to the interest. It is a deadly cycle that students do not want to get sucked into. Even though the cost of college and student debt are major concerns, college has much more to offer than just a degree. In response to Charles Murray, Kevin Carey argues that college not only exposes students to the skills they will need for the workplace, but also helps them better understand the world we live in and how they will fit into it. Carey states that higher education exposes students to our intellectual and cultural inheritance, to hard-won wisdom and works of surpassing beauty. College is grueling for many students, but the benefits of getting a degree today are extremely rewarding, especially when students can reflect on how much effort they put into learning and see how it helped them become successful. Also, students benefit from many valuable opportunities to grow intellectually that they can only receive by going to a university. This influential 19th century education philosopher John Henry Newman believed that after our basic human needs were covered, we are destined to go out and seek a higher form of knowledge. We have to discover the beauty of knowledge and how it affects our own world. Since everyone has this God-given capability, we just need the motivation to act on it. The high cost of college and the high rates of student loan debt should not prevent students from taking advantage of these many benefits of attending college. Government policies can be adopted to help students pay for college and reduce student debt. Programs like the Higher Education Act and Pell Grants, which helped millions of Americans attend college during the 20th century, can be implemented today to make sure that college remains an option for any student who chooses to attend. As our nation has changed throughout the years, attitudes about college have changed as well. Today, people cannot live a comfortable lifestyle without having a well-paying job, which can be difficult to receive until they get a degree. This is why it is of such great importance that everyone be eligible and have the resources to attend college. Charles Murray stated that we should not restrict the availability of a liberal education to a rarefied intellectual elite. We still need universities that are available to the majority of students who want to attend and who are willing to put in the work to succeed. Our country and our universities have done a lot for their students, but now they need to do more. Okay, and then we get into her works cited. I'll let you look at that on your own. All right, so basically how Chloe went through those 10 core concepts is the way I want you guys to do it, okay? It's basically spread out all the way through the main writer's process. Drafting, revision, corrections, feedback, everything, okay? So, just to make sure everyone is on the same page here. You guys will be doing these analysis and scholarship essays. Next week is going to be the first workshop session, okay? It's going to be the first workshop week. The way you guys are going to do this is you're going to post a draft to your team's discussion thread. You're going to do that by attaching a file to a response to that thread. And then your teammates are going to get your file, they're going to read it, and then they're going to give you their feedback on how you did. They're going to tell you what you're doing right, and they're also going to tell you what needs improvement. Okay? The workshop we're doing next week is going to be revision, so it's going to be all about concepts and ideas that are being presented and how well your claims are being backed up. Okay? I will give you a little bit more to clarify what we're looking for next week. So in the meantime, we'll have another Blackboard Collaborate session on Wednesday and another lecture next week. In the meantime, just keep up with the discussion boards and MindTap, and I will see you.